Welcome back to another episode of Real Chums, where chatting about movies feels like hanging out with friends. I'm your host, Danny, and with me, as always, is my co-host, Marcel.
This week, we continue to look at some of our favorite movies from a decade ago with Birdman, or The Unexpected Virtue of Ignorance. This movie was directed by Alejandro G. Iñárritu, screenplay by Alejandro, Nicholas Jacobone, Alexander Danielis, and Armando Bo. Starring Michael Keaton, Emma Stone, Edward Norton, Zach Galifianakis, Naomi Watts, Andrew Riceborough, and Amy Ryan.
In this episode, we discuss fame versus art versus business, the impact of the single continuous shot. But before we roll that intro, be sure to subscribe wherever you get your podcasts, and why Birdman is more relevant today than it was a decade ago. And don't forget to turn on notifications so you never miss out on an episode.
To join also in on that conversation, you can follow us on YouTube at Real Chumps. Let's go ahead and roll that intro.
Question of the day. I do not have a question of the day. Do you have a question of the day? I'm a little fried.
No. Let me think.
No, look, I think...
Okay, here's the question of the day. In 30 seconds, give me your premise for the movie Birdman. Like, the Birdman movies.
Oh, the actual Birdman movies.
in this universe.
Oh, okay. A alien lands on Earth and realizes he has... No. Yeah, an alien man lands on Earth and finds out that although on his planet he didn't have any powers, he has powers now, becomes Birdman and goes around terrorizing or saving people from terrorizing vulture men who come to try to take over the planet.
Okay, so he's an alien who has powers here.
Yes.
And takes on the mantle of this Birdman.
Yes.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
All right. What are his powers besides flight?
Super strength and a squeal. A screech.
Oh, I like that.
A screech.
It confuses the villains.
Yeah. And then I don't know, something with yeah.
Okay.
There's that.
I like it. Here's mine.
Okay.
A average 20-year-old college student gets radioactive, falls into a pit of radioactive
Sus
stuff.
Yeah.
in a radioactive wasteland where birds and crows go and pick off whatever they can. And so he gets the powers of flight. Also, I had the idea of a screech. But I guess like in the movie, he uses telepathy, right? So maybe he has some like kind of telepathy in it, but his powers are that, flight, telepathy to an extent, strength, superhuman strength, his screech, and then he's fighting against, this is the horrible pitch, corporate entity who is building this massive
wasteland,
but the bird that's attacking the city, right? And that's who he's going up against.
Let us know which one you'd watch.
Not mine. I gotta flesh it out a little bit. There's the CEO of this corporation.
Falls also, and he trips and
Fired his dad at a young age from working, so he's writing an expose about this corporation. That's the personal tie into it and whatnot. We can,
okay. You did put some thought into this.
I'll flesh it out.
You'll flesh it out. Okay. I was trying to decide if I wanted to go with him actually having wings or not. But
okay.
Yeah. I feel like
that's so hard to hide.
It's so hard to hide,
right? Like,
yeah.
Even Angel in the X-Men, like the guy's wearing a trench coat constantly in 90-degree weather. Like,
no,
nah.
People be like, that guy's a creep.
That guy's a creep.
Kids walk away.
Kids walk away. If he opens up his coat, do not go near him.
Real quick, we want to let you know I feel like I'm super peaky over here. I'm not sure what's going on. Okay, we're turning up. We are scaling back a little bit on our production only because like we said in our previous episode, we're going through some life changes and updates and getting into the groove of staying up to date to get our releases out on the time that we want to, which is on Saturdays. We do want to get our episodes out on Saturdays, so I apologize that our last episode and the previous episode didn't get there, but we will work on getting those back on track. Hence the one camera setup.
Yeah. But I mean, if you're listening and not watching,
you just
keep on listening.
Yeah.
Keep on listening.
We love you.
Yeah. But yeah, so that's why the change up if you're watching on how
we'll get back to our regular scheduled setup shortly, but until we can get things flushed out into a rhythm, this is what you got, because it's a little bit easier to cut. And consistency on getting these episodes out is more important to us than making it look super great with 2 camera setups and whatnot.
But it still looks great.
It does.
Good job, Danny.
Thanks, bro.
Yeah, good job.
My debt looks great. All right, no, let's hop into this movie.
So we're finishing up our look back at movies that came out in 2014.
Right.
This has been
This has been fun.
Yeah.
I've really enjoyed it.
Some movies that I hadn't watched in a while, and just some classics. So we're finishing up with Birdman. I proposed this to you because Birdman came out in November 2014. It later would go on to win lots of stuff. But it did win. It gave Alejandro his first Oscar, right?
Oscar.
And did it win Best Picture? It won Best Picture.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it won Best Picture. I think it also won a couple other. I don't remember if it was sound design or not sound design. I don't know, something else. Maybe I'm wrong.
Won Best Picture, won Best Directing. At the Academies, it won Best Cinematography, Writing, and what's his face was nominated for an Oscar, Michael Keaton.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, so I suggested this because I was like, well, I might as well look at that year's Best Picture, right? You had never seen this.
I'd never seen this. This was a huge one, for sure. And I didn't get to it. Part of it's because, again, it was this time period where I was recently married. So going to see a movie, was a little bit more difficult, in those early years, just because it wasn't one that she wanted to go see. So I was like, whatever. And then on top of that, there's a huge hype train. And I remember watching the trailer and I was like, I'm not sure if I want to see this movie, but I'm like, I'm not, maybe, I don't know. I don't know what it was. It's being dumb. That's honestly what it was.
And so you finally got around to it.
I finally got around to it.
Initial thoughts and impressions are?
Does not compute. Okay, here's my initial thoughts and impressions, okay? I thoroughly enjoyed the movie.
Yeah.
Do I feel like this is a movie that I fully liked? Okay, let me phrase. I thoroughly enjoyed the cinematography and the overall film. Do I cherish this movie? Is it one that I think I'm going to want to watch on a regular basis? I don't think so.
Okay.
But I think that this is one that like has so much to unpack. It's a very this is the most cinephile.
Artsy.
This is the most artsy yet approachable artsy film that I've ever watched.
Okay.
And I've watched several artsy movies, but and I like understand them, but this one was like hidden, and I thought it was really well played. So I'm excited to talk about this movie, but I think I was left unsure really where my feelings were with the movie.
I love this movie. I'm glad that aren't in love with it because I think we finally have a movie that I feel like we always like are on the same page with all of our movies.
Yeah. Well, and here's the thing. Like I've said this before, and I think even more so recently as we've like watched as we come back to watch these movies, like if I don't like if there's a movie that I don't really like, I think after a couple more watches,
Yeah.
I come to understand the movie a little bit better. So this is my first watch, and so these are my first feelings of like the movie and like understanding the movie. I think it's a deep movie. I think there's a lot to try to decipher.
Yes.
And to kind of understand what the director wants from us. What is the movie actually telling us? So there's a lot going on here. Cinematography is beautiful. Cinematography is like in the choice of how they wanted to go about making it feel like a one take. The setting and the story is great. The ending is also great.
You think the ending is great?
I think the
I
ending.
for sure thought that you would not like the ending.
No, I think that I guess the question is, where does it end?
Right. Okay.
That's the question, right?
Yeah.
But I think I have my opinions of where I think it ends.
We'll get to it.
And what we will. But overall, like I think the performances are phenomenal.
Yeah.
And so yeah, I think really, I think I'm more interested in and excited to talk about this with you because I think once us talking about it, I might want to go back and rewatch it. But again, I think this will be one that I like. I'll visit every couple, maybe 4 something plus years, as like, what's a good like just cinephile movie. This is a good cinephile movie.
So for me, I think after this last watch, I'm gonna put this on my annual watch.
Oh, okay.
So opposite for me, but look, this is my second time watching it. I did not see I saw this after Oscar award seasons. So it was in 2015, and it was like late 2015. I finally got around to it, but I remember hearing all the hype for it. Right,
Super big hype.
It originally debuted at the Venice Film Festival or at Cannes. I can't remember.
I want to say Cannes, but don't quote me on that.
Yeah. And everyone was just talking about like Michael Keaton, like how meta it was, and life imitating art or art imitating life, right? And the casting of Michael Keaton and just how ironic that was, and Alejandro's. I kept hearing a lot of like, this is Alejandro's most approachable movie, and for me, like, don't get me wrong, like Mexican pride, man, like for Mexican power, but like his movies sometimes I'm just like I can't.
they're freaking
too much to unpack. They're heavy, and just sometimes I'm just like I'm not in the mood.
I think that's where I come in. I got soured.
You got soured by Alejandro's.
Alejandro. He's great. He's great. He's great.
And that's the thing. Like I think you said this. Like this is the most artsy fartsy movie, right? But like.
A most approachable
yes. one, right? And I think that's what's great about this movie. I tried watching Babel. When my brother sat me down. He's like, let's watch this movie. It's really good. Blah, blah. My older brother. And I remember like getting like through the first act and I was just like, I'm bored, dude. Like, when are all these stories going to tie in? And anyway, but when I watched it, like, I enjoyed it. We talk often about our love for oners, right? And the movie doing the attempt to do a one take effect was just really cool. And I left kind of the movie just being like, that's fine. But I think this most recent watch, I was just like, I love this. And I think this movie, it was so relevant when it came out in 2014. The commentary on actors taking on these big budget movies and Hollywood actors not being actors, they're celebrities, right? And according to Tabitha, the critic, right?
Yeah.
And so I just like, it was perfect there. Obviously, it was very relevant to Michael Keaton, and we're going through this Keaton renaissance in 2014. You look at what happened between 93 and 2014, and Michael Keaton was not very active, right? He couldn't get a hit. And now from 2014 on, he's just been doing awesome stuff, right? And then, but what I love about it now, I think it's more relevant now than it was in 2014.
Okay, this is where I think I was feeling this movie. I was watching. I'm like, this movie feels. This is hitting hard.
Yeah.
This hits like every line, every like nuance monologue at different moments from different characters in their own little, specific kind of phase of those characters and in the story, like hits so hard and so relevant to like still to the same sort of commentary that initially did, but I feel like even more so now to like the greater sphere of like influencer slash like content creation
yeah.
and like how we look at how some individuals could be seeing life.
Yeah. Let's jump into that. Okay, so before we jump into some of our topics, Birdman, or The Unexpected Virtue of Ignorance, is about a movie about a washed up actor who's attempting to revive his career by writing, starring, and directing
and producing
a Broadway production.
Yes.
That being Michael Keaton. Let's talk about this movie. So on my notes, I have a topic of one of the themes being that of fame versus art versus business. Okay.
Yeah.
And I think this is why it stood out to me so much. There's a line that Tabitha says, the critic, right? Mm-hmm. Something along the lines of like, you guys measure success on weekends.
Yeah.
Okay. And I want to talk about this because right now, and we brought it up in our movie news segment, you have most recently, what's the movie? The Fall Guy.
Fall Guy.
That was in theaters for 3 weeks, 2 weeks?
Yeah.
3
like
weeks?
3 weeks. That was probably like like actually in most theaters. There was, I think it was, I think they've taken it away, but it was kind of like straggling on some theaters that like kind of just left it in as like another option for people because they didn't have anything new to replace it.
But at 3 weeks, it was on
yes.
digital.
Correct.
Right. As of recording, we are 4 or 5 days post A Quiet Place Day 1, and it's the biggest opening that this franchise has had.
Right.
Getting incredible reviews, but they've already said that it's going to be on digital by the end of the month.
Yeah.
They announced this yesterday.
Yeah.
How do you feel this movie approaches this idea of art, fame, or maybe we'll stick to art versus business for now, and why? What's it trying to say about art and business? Business isn't art in the world of Hollywood, in Broadway, and why is it relevant? How is it continue to be relevant today?
So, we got to understand the premise. So some of the aspects in the movie, right? Regan has Birdman voice, like mocking him at several moments of the film, and in those several moments, is like, pushes him like, we should have just made another. We should have
Birdman 4.
Birdman 4. And this idea of like, that was doing great. We were top of the world. We were the best thing ever. Everyone knows us from this. And like, and having the aspect of the fame, the recognition, the understanding from fans and from the people to, so the business side of that, how lucrative, how beneficial, and how amazing that is, where we see, we're coming up with Deadpool and Wolverine. Yet again, another thing that is both a thing of it's a business decision. It's a thing that is feeding the engine and will probably do a really amazing numbers.
Yeah.
I mean, Hugh Jackman's coming back as Wolverine. So yet again, but having Regan come in battling himself to try to put on this other production to make something feel that he's proud of, and feel that he is there because he loves the craft, right? I think the opening sequence with him killing his understudy because he just was complete shit is the epitome of like that. And then having what's his Mike with Edward Norton's character come in and play, who no one can work with him, but because all he wants is to be, it's about what's being done live, or what's, the perspective of real life is no longer viable for him.
Yeah.
Right. And so this aspect of the business side of like, we need X person to make this thing good, or we need we need to feed the engine that people want. That's kind of where I think, to me, the battle of like, I think I look at this movie, I'm like, I can only imagine what it's like for people who are coming into the MCU. Because like they, like, if like watching this movie, I'm like, this would be brutal. Like somebody who, I think of, Adam Driver. I rewatched Star Wars, the Rise of Skywalker.
Oh, okay.
This weekend, because I just because I was feeling it.
Yeah.
And I just think of Adam Driver, and Adam Driver going from that to some of the films he did do.
Yeah.
That, like, to me, I'm like, he's like, screw business. I mean, he's probably getting paid really well. I'm not saying he's not, right? Like I'm saying. But at the end of the day, he went to go film one of the most emotional movie, like what's the movie with was it Scarlett Johansson?
Oh,
that like
a Marriage Story.
A Marriage Story. Want some big, like,
yeah.
But that one's super it's art.
Yeah.
That's art. And so like having this, we have people like, The Rock, your favorite.
Let's bring up The Rock.
Yeah. He's in it for the business.
Yeah.
It's for the love, but it's the business.
It's the business, for sure. I think I love that you bring that up. And I think there's a danger, right? And when studios come in and say, all right, are we doing this for the business? Are we doing this for the art? And I didn't even think about The Rock, right? You have an individual who successfully has built a brand for himself, a studio, an image, and he is doing it for the business. He has a love for the business, and he's successful at it. I'm not saying he doesn't love the art and the technicality of acting.
No. Yeah.
But there is definitely this love for the business aspect of it all.
Do people still love the movies? Are they still great? Are they enjoyable? Yeah. Absolutely. We're not saying that, like, what we're saying though, at the end of the day, the motives, the ultimate motives, maybe it's like, I have this great story or whatever, but really, it's doing something that it's doing a project that has a mass appeal to it. Yes. Whereas, like, you look at, I would say Ridley Scott's Napoleon.
Sure.
Most recently, right?
Or even, I was reading on Twitter, right? People, like, I haven't seen it, but Horizon, an American saga.
Yeah. Okay. That was fully funded by
Kevin. Right? But people like it for the most part, from what I'm noticing, but no one's gone out to see it.
Yeah.
Right? And Kevin Costner was talking about it over the weekend. Like, he's saying, like, no, it's not performing well, but I am proud of what I've done. Right? And I'm proud of the story, the directing of it, the performances, and that's what matters to me. Mm-hmm. And you could say, like, all right, the dude's just saving face, whatever, but like, that's his baby, that's his project. Then you have part one that just came out this past weekend, and part two that's coming out in like 2 months.
Yeah.
How is that going to perform? Who knows?
But I mean, to him, it's like he actually made a movie that he wanted to make.
Yeah.
And he's distributing it the way he wants to distribute it.
Directed it, wrote it, starring in it, right? Like, it's his baby.
It's every filmmaker's dream.
Yeah.
It's every filmmaker's dream to be able to, maybe not to star in it, mm-hmm. or maybe it's just to write and starring, maybe, whatever the breakdown, but to have him be able to be directing, to be starring and being the writer and the producer and be able to say, this is what we're going to do it. He did it here in Utah.
Oh, did he?
A lot of it was done here, down in St. George.
Okay.
I have a friend who worked special effects for lanterns.
Okay.
Right? And so, like, having that be a thing is something. I'm always proud of every single movie. Every time we hit the publish button on one of these episodes.
Look,
right?
Go ahead.
No.
Look, and I get, like, we talk about this. Obviously, there's a business aspect to it, to all of it.
Yeah.
Right? And I think Tabitha, the critic, brings this up, right? Like, you are measuring your success or your value in these numbers, right? But at the end of the day, like, yeah, like, it is a business. There's millions, hundreds of millions of dollars being put into these productions, right? Yeah. So from a business perspective, I get it. Yeah, you need to see that ROI at some point.
Yeah, no, 100%. You brought up Tabitha. That was like a, how was that? Like 2 minutes, maybe, if that, of her speech towards Regan. The one that really stood out to me was Emma Stone's. What the freak is her name?
Emma Stone, yeah.
Yeah, Emma Stone's, when she gets mad at her dad. When dad comes in and starts, where is it? Looking for the weed, right?
Yeah.
And he's like, is like upset with her. And she like riffs at him and is like, you're irrelevant because you're not on social. You don't matter anymore. You're scared because you aren't relevant. That whole breakdown for me, that's the one that stood out to me. To me, I felt like, because he was Birdman, he was an icon. He was this image. He was a person that was in the sphere and he was there. The moment that was no longer there, he's irrelevant. He didn't matter.
He didn't matter. Right. And that's why I like this theme of fame versus art versus business. Where's the division for these people? Right. And like, where do these lines blur? Right. I want to bring up that interaction with Regan and Tabitha, because Michael Keaton gives a wonderful monologue.
Oh yeah,
right. Second, and I'm looking at the camera. Listeners, look at me, and if you're listening, listen carefully. I don't think we are movie critics.
No.
That's not what this podcast has ever been about.
No.
And Regan calls out Tabitha hardcore in that segment, in that monologue. So at first when I was rewatching, I was like, we're not those types of, like, that's not what we are. This isn't that kind of podcast. But yeah, I mean,
what is it that he says that read what you feel like.
So he approaches her, right? He brings her a drink. She says, you know what? I'm going to destroy your play.
That's right. Yeah.
You haven't seen it. You don't know. Did I do something to offend you? And she goes on to say, as a matter of fact, you did. You took up space in the theater, which otherwise might have been used on something worthwhile.
Oh, okay. That line.
And then Regan says, okay, well, I mean, you don't even know if it's any good or not. I didn't. She cuts him off. That's true. I haven't read a word of it or even seen a preview. But after the opening tomorrow, I'm going to turn in the worst review anyone has ever read, and I'm going to close your play. Would you like to know why? Because I hate you and everyone you represent. Entitled, selfish, spoiled children. Blissfully untrained, unversed, and unprepared to even attempt real art. Handing each other awards for cartoons and pornography. Measuring your worth in weekends. Well, this is the theater, and you don't get to come in here and pretend you can write, direct, and act in your own propaganda piece without coming through me first. So break a leg, right? But it's Regan's, like, interaction. He goes on to say, because he doesn't threaten her, but she says, I'll call the police. No, you won't call the police. Let's read your fucking review. He says, callow. Callow is a label. It's just lackluster. That's just a label. Marginalia. Are you kidding me? Sounds like you need penicillin to clear that up. That's a label too. These are all just labels. You just label everything. That's so lazy. You're a lazy effort. You're lazy. You know what this is? You even know what that is? You don't. You don't know why? Because you can't see this thing. If you don't have to label it, you can't see this thing if you don't have to label it. You mistake all those little noises in your head for true knowledge.
Yeah.
Right? And so like, and then he goes on to say like, how do you, what has to happen in your life to become a critic? Right? Like, so I just love his delivery, just the way he engages. He brings that up. And again, it's, for him, it is art, right? What he's doing.
Yeah.
And there's this, division from the Broadway critics to Hollywood types, right? But I think it's just powerful that he has this passion, but he's being not antagonized, but challenged on why he's doing it, right?
Yeah.
And we catch that earlier, right? With, like you mentioned, Emma Stone, right? Where she says, you're irrelevant. You're not even on Twitter. You're nothing.
Yeah.
You don't matter, I think she says. You don't matter.
Yeah.
And for to have the character of Tabitha to come in as a critic and challenge why he's doing the play, right? He gives this whole little like, what's his face? Raymond Carter gave me this no when I was a kid. That's why I'm doing it. Is it because you're inspired by him? Is it because you want to be relevant? Or is it because you actually are passionate about the art?
Yeah.
And so I love this internal struggle that Reagan is having throughout the movie. What are his motives, right? And you have the character of his buddy, of Zach Galifianakis, his lawyer.
I love that every single time Zach.
He's just a yes man, right? Like he's just promoting him like, no, we got this, you're good. But to have Tabitha come in and challenge why he's doing this whole production, I think it's such a strong turning point for him as a character and for the movie to really push us into these motives. Great stuff all around.
Yeah.
You know, you brought up that you were thinking of Dwayne Johnson. This movie, for whatever reason, while I was watching it this time, I was just thinking of Robert Downey Jr.
Interesting. I could see that.
Not that he's a washed up character.
No, of course
or
not.
actor.
But I mean, like, he came back, and when he came back, he was irrelevant until Iron Man.
I'm thinking post Iron Man. What's the first movie he did after Avengers? After he was done with Iron Man?
Is it Oppenheimer?
Nah.
Which one was that one? He directed his own documentary, right?
No, before that. So the first movie that he did, he produced, he starred in it. He had this is Robert Downey at the top of the world. Okay, just finished Avengers, and he decides to do Doolittle.
He did Doolittle?
Yeah. And it was horrendous.
I remember
horrible. Like this was like a passion project of his. To go from being like, I can do whatever I want. Now that I'm done, I'm the most paid actor in the world. I sneeze and I get paid millions. Like it, and for him to then be passionate about doing Doolittle and it being horrible. I haven't seen it. Okay, I saw the last like little bit, and from what
I feel like I've seen the first like 15 minutes.
Look, the whole from what I remember, the whole movie's leading up to this payoff where they have to go after some. I can't remember if it's like a dragon, but like the dragon has to poop something out. And he has to like dig in the poop to get like the MacGuffin. I'm just like, Robert, what are you doing? You're better than this.
Sure.
But like, here's an actor who had the Iron Man persona, and also, and we've talked about this with Ryan Reynolds. Like, where's the division between Tony Stark and Robert Downey Jr.? Where's the division between Birdman and Reagan?
Yeah.
Right. Like, who's who?
Yeah.
Who's taking control? Is it Reagan or is it Birdman? Is it Tony Stark or is it Robert Downey Jr.? Is it Deadpool or is it Ryan Reynolds? Right? Like, and we'll talk. Maybe we'll jump into this, but like the theme of like ego here.
Yes. Okay. So this is okay. So this is why I like. So, Sam is like, what? Make it about me. I wouldn't dream of it. Listen to me. I'm trying to do something that's important. Sam, that is not important. It's important to me, all right? Maybe not to you or your cynical playmates whose sole ambition is to end up going viral and who, by the way, will only be remembered as the generation that finally stopped talking to one another. But to me, this is God. This is my career. This is my chance to do some work that actually means something. And then Sam comes, means something to who? You had a career before the third comic book movie, before people began to forget who was inside of the bird costume. You're doing the play based on a book that was written 600 or 60 years ago for 1,000 rich old white people whose only real concern is going to be where they go to have their cake and coffee when it's over. Nobody gives a shit about you. And let's face it, Dad, it's not for the sake of art. It's because you just want to feel relevant again. Well, there's a whole world out there where people fight to be relevant every day, and you act like it doesn't even exist.
Wonderful, just powerful. I mean, this is a society that we live in, right?
This is the thing that I think maybe I'm coming around to it as I think of, because like the thing that I was like, all I could think about was like, it is so much more relevant that like everybody, I mean, we're doing it now as much as we don't like it, we are playing the game.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah.
We're playing the game. We are trying to create content. In fact, I'll tell you what we play the game in. The trailer reactions.
Yeah.
We play the game. Look, guys. We like doing trailer reactions, but we do it for you guys. We don't do it for us. This is our art piece.
Yeah, that's true.
We do this. We do the podcast because we love talking about movies. We like to just discuss it. We're not out here being critics. We're not trying to like demolish one. If we think it's not great, we think it's not great.
Yeah.
But a lot of movies are just good movies.
Yeah.
Are they the best movies in the entire world? Absolutely not. This one is up there and pretty great. But it's taking me some time to like process and to go through it. However, at the end of the day, I think this idea of like who's playing the game and the business fame / art piece is such a huge battle right now. You can be anyone. You can get on your phone right now and you can scroll and you will find whatever feed you've kind of, or like the things that you're liking, you will find people that are doing the same similar things. Mm-hmm. And all you're choosing are the people behind the thing. You're not actually choosing, they're not trying to be unique. Now, the people who are being unique are finding their own, voice, but that is even harder to do because you have to be, those are someone people, they're putting hours in the ability to tell those unique stories. The fancy titles, that takes hours to do. You're scripting, you're changing your camera angles. That takes an entire day to shoot, takes a half a day to edit. Those individuals are doing the grind. And they do it because they love it. They want to be there, but it is the slog. And I think this is where, you look at, and as much as it is, I think that Mike's character is an interesting character. And I want your take on Mike because I don't know where I think I have him land.
Oh, I love
Is Mike just Edward Norton?
Yes. This is why I like the character Mike, because it is Edward Norton. Okay? I mean, look, if you know, but if you don't, Edward Norton has this
ego.
He has an ego, yes. He also has this label as being just difficult to work with.
Yeah.
He's not a method actor, okay? But like he definitely like is very controlling. To the point, I was watching an interview with Alejandro Iñárritu, and he's talking about that scene where they introduce Mike, right? Regan comes in and he's quoting lines from the play, right? Yeah. And
without even looking at
the play. And he has Regan, play off of him, and he stops and he's like, no, that's not it, like you gotta give me more emotion. Oh, okay. And like they have this back and forth, right?
Yeah.
Well, Alejandro was talking in an interview how they were rehearsing that scene, and they were talking about like the camera angles, like we're gonna have the camera coming this way, pan around, make sure you like, here's the take that I want to do, etc. To the point where Edward Norton kind of cuts him off and it's like, well, what if we instead do it this other way? And like, how about I come around and to the point. And so then Alejandro starts laughing. He's like, you're being Mike right now. Like you're literally being Mike right now. And so he's like, I casted him perfectly. But like, I think that's what I love about it. Cause like it is straight up Edward Norton as Mike. right?
And which I think Edward Norton knows he's Mike.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because I think this is the most lively, passionate I feel like I've seen Edward Norton in a film
That's true.
in like, I don't know how long.
I think what I like about that character is that, one, he's this foil to Reagan, and his approach to acting, right? He's not a Hollywood actor. He's a Broadway performer and a phenomenal actor in Broadway. He is confident of his skill set to the point where he goes to Tabitha, right? And she says, what if I write a bad review on you? Yeah, you will, if I ever give you a bad performance.
Yeah.
Right? Like, he's confident about his craft.
Yeah.
And he's good at it. Do I agree with his approach at times with his method acting?
Yeah.
Nah, that's not for me, but like, he is this foil to him and to Reagan. And I think what I like about the character is that, but it also gives Reagan that opportunity for him to elevate his craft, because now he's performing off of this guy.
Yeah.
He wanted someone good. He even, right? There's a scene where like they even throw the name of some of the Avengers, right? To bring in.
Yeah.
But
I thought that was fun.
Yeah, but they bring him in, Mike, and he elevates the performance from everybody.
Yeah.
Whether Reagan likes his approach or not into his method acting, he doesn't, but he's elevating everyone else.
Right.
And I think that's what's great about that character, because I think had you made him just this really good actor who's really good at what he does and everyone loves him, where is that antagonism coming from for Reagan? But when you write Mike Shiner to be this not only good, but he's also antagonizing his beliefs, his purposes, then it really gives that opportunity for the character Reagan to really shine.
How does that what is the meta comment on that? Because like, that's Mike, how does that play in the commentary about the industry?
I think in a couple ways. I think you have here where art is imitating life and life imitates art in so many ways, right? Again, because Edward Norton is Mike Shiner. I think it also, look, I've shared my distaste for Jared Leto.
Yeah.
And I feel like this is also Jared Leto in the method acting, right? I don't think it's okay for you to send used condoms to your castmates because that's what Joker would do, and I'm Jared Leto, and that's what I'm gonna do.
Yeah.
Stop that.
Yeah.
Like, you're a weirdo, Jared Leto. Stop it. I'm pretty sure you're the leader of a cult too. So like, I think the commentary is this: what extreme do you need to go to as a performer, as an actor? Mike does it by becoming a method actor, whereas Reagan, by that last performance, he is just being honest. He has deconstructed himself as a human being, as a performer. He's let go of the ego of Birdman. Mm-hmm. He is focused on what really matters, and that's his daughter and possibly the lost love of his wife. And that's what brings the wonderful, incredible performance. Does that work for everyone? Maybe not. Maybe that's why you have the Jared Letos of the world who have to become method performers. I don't know. I'm not an actor myself.
Right. Yeah, I don't know.
But I think that's the commentary, is like, what drives these performances and what really gives them that gravitas? Is it method acting, or is it just really deconstructing yourself to the raw beats and emotions of the script?
Yeah, I thought you would end up saying like, you know, that to be a truly great film, you need people who will put in the effort, like a Shiner. Mm-hmm. And whether that be in method or some other aspect, right? Or you have to, like, you know, compete. I think of Oppenheimer. I feel like, I think, you know, Robert Downey Jr., you've got Cillian Murphy, those two men having to play off of each other in a film like that like had to have been just. I mean, we know that Cillian Murphy's ate only an almond a day,
Right.
In to try to put himself into the same sort of mental
weary mindset, right?
Yeah, of like having to, I'm so worried about my people, or that I'm going to not eat food or whatever, I don't know. So, which then elevates, that same sort of like this extremism in the industry of having to do, what does it take to become excellence?
Yeah.
Right. Good stuff.
I think this is why I'm glad you brought that up. I think that's why I have Oppenheimer and Robert Downey Jr. in mind so much, right? Because again, going back to that train of thought, Robert Downey Jr. could have done anything he wanted post Avengers, post MCU. He did Dolittle. It was it was a huge bust. Didn't do that whole lot, and then he comes back with the banger in Oppenheimer, best performance, wins an Oscar.
Yeah.
And now I'm not saying he wasn't relevant, again, because this was like 6-ish years. But like, people kept asking him, like, when are you going to come back to the MCU? Like, will you come back to the MCU for these past 6 years, right?
Like he must have felt like Regan walking down the street, in just his tidy whities, getting asked to freaking sign on to do an autograph.
Yeah.
On a freaking magazine, like, or is this guy just carrying around a Birdman poster or whatever, right? I can only imagine that's probably how he felt, right? Everyone only knows him from Iron Man,
and more so like, because again, the blurred lines of who is Tony Stark versus who is Robert Downey Jr. But now he gave a wonderful performance, and I'm excited to see what happens
comes next
to Robert Downey Jr. from here on out.
All right, let's talk a little bit about cinematography. Or I don't know. We don't have to. We could talk about the overall. Look, I'm just going to say this. Look, they did a phenomenal job with the one takes.
Well, here's my question: why do it in a one take format?
Because I think there's two reasons. One, it's mimicking in a feel of a play, right? In a play, we're in one spot, and they have to change the sets, and you're not moving anywhere. In a film, although we could cut, right? So having the illusion of like never cutting means that it feels more performance-esque than just being an escapism.
Yeah.
Right. You're going to see it adds a little layer to nuance. The second aspect, I think, of it is that it provides an intrigue, and it allows for the flow of what they're trying to do with the story, right? The story follows, for the most part, Regan, but overall it's the cast, it's the team in entirety, with Regan being the center point of this, right? And so having it flow as in this compact time period of the previews of like trying to make this happen and trying to accomplish and get the Broadway show launched and set out and made, that helps to amplify that whole experience.
Yeah.
In my opinion.
Yeah. I think I think it's such an immersive viewing experience, right?
Yeah, I think it's a great description.
The fact that we're leading up to, we have these two previews and a final third one, right, with the critics. So we're leading up to something, right? And I mean, you've been in like band productions and performances, right?
Yeah.
There is that excitement, that adrenaline of the day, the hours leading up to the big performance, right? Yeah. And so like we're having that, but here in a Broadway production, and I think it's a great way to bring us into it, to make us feel like we're characters in viewing what's happening, right?
Yes.
But also like to just lead up to this big grand finale.
Yeah.
In which way we don't know how it's gonna play out, but we're going through this journey with Regan and the and all the cast members here.
Right. Okay. Honestly, I want to make a couple notes. I don't know exactly. I don't know what lens they chose to shoot this entire film at. I didn't look it up. But it's a wider lens. It could be a 24. It might be a little bit wider, but there's a couple shots. They get right up in there.
Yeah.
And it is probably some of my favorite shots. Some of the more intimate shots. They're not even intimate. They're like intimate. They're like you're feeling, and it's not cut, right? So like having to do the blocking of these scenes, just phenomenal. Like the flow and the timing and the pacing truly is beautiful. It's almost like the opposite of Oppenheimer.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So like if Oppenheimer is like a feat in providing a 3-hour movie that's cut in a way that doesn't feel like jarring, Birdman feels like a 2-hour movie that feels that flows, and that it has a cadence and it goes. But that I think that this brings me to, I think the other thing is like because it's a one take, and the aspect of it amplifies the idea of what's real and what's not, which is where I want to go.
Okay.
What is real and what is not?
I mean, obviously the movie is left up to your own interpretation. I think I have some strong feelings about the ending, if anything.
Okay, what's your feelings of the ending?
He's dead. He dies at the end. When he jumped out the window.
Okay, so he
survived the
gunshot.
The gunshot.
Because it was like a blank or something, or
no, it was a real gun.
It was a real gun.
Yeah, he switched it out.
Yeah, because I mean, it looks like a 9mm or whatever it is.
Yeah. And then he gets to see all the praise and whatnot, and then he jumps out the window.
Yeah.
The reason being that I believe this, and this is just my interpretation. He has that beautiful scene with his ex-wife. Amy Ryan plays the character, where he finally just confesses to her, I tried to commit suicide after you caught me cheating that one time. He really deconstructs himself as like, I was kind of a horrible parent, horrible husband,
spouse, yeah.
Right? And he's finally coming to this realization of what really matters. Earlier in the movie, after the first viewing or the first preview, she comes to the dressing room and she says this wonderful line. They're having this argument about like why he's doing this, right? He refinanced their home to be able to pay for production costs for this Broadway, right? And they're having this argument, and she kind of finishes it by saying, we were always there for you, but you confuse love with admiration. Okay. And she just kind of walks out, right?
Yeah.
And so for him to that final time when he meets up with his ex-wife in his dressing room, and he just kind of says like, yeah, I should have focused on other things. Like, why did I focus on these things? He has finally accepted like, this doesn't matter. He's put away Birdman. He's nowhere to be seen now. His ego. And now, but because of his wonderful performance and how great it was, and now tickets are being sold out, and now they're kind of rewarding or rephrasing this gunshot as the lawyer comes in, Zach Galifianakis comes in, and he says like, oh, they're calling this new style of acting. He has a word for it.
It was like
a modern realism acting or something like that, right?
Yeah.
He's getting the praise that he wants.
Admiration.
The admiration that he's been craving, even though he just said that it didn't matter for him, right? The mask, the bandages are very much purposely look like the Birdman mask. Mm-hmm. So I think that at this point, the ego comes in. Birdman is now in control. He's getting the admiration he wants. He goes out the window. He jumps out. He dies. And the camera looking at Emma Stone, she looks down, right? And then she looks up and gets a big old smile. That is the point of view of Birdman saying, my daughter is proud and I'm up here flying. I finally did it. Not only is the admiration from critics, from everyone that I finally got that. And now I got my daughter's view as he's quote unquote flying away.
Yeah.
But he's really dead.
Yeah. I mean, I think I was trying to, I think I tried to play it back. I think there's some sound effects of like soft, maybe of like ambulance.
Ambulance is arriving. Yeah.
Is it telepathy real? That's just in his head.
No, that's just in his head.
Right.
Yeah.
So, cause like, and that's the way I looked at it. Actually, I didn't mind the ending. I was surprised how. I was surprised / not surprised. I saw the gun when the swapped gun with a more real gun.
Uh-huh.
And I was like, okay. And I was like, I was glad that they had the twist of him just not fully dying on the set. But I think overall, I was like, being able to see, and I think your take on like that Birdman is finally in full control, is a pretty solid, interpretation.
And I want to tie it back to how the movie starts.
Okay.
The movie starts black screen with a quote from Raymond Carver. So this poem focuses on the human desire for love and acceptance, right? And it poses the question whether throughout life's challenges, struggles, hardships, and imperfections, if we achieve the ultimate goal of feeling loved, valued, appreciated, right? But the movie starts with that quote, and it says, let me pull it up. It says, "And did you get what you wanted from this life? Even so, I did. And what did you want? To call myself beloved, to feel myself beloved on the earth." Okay, so like, did you get that admiration, that love, that feeling of, admiration, right? Mm-hmm. And for him at the end, he gets that.
Yeah.
Birdman, the ego gets it. And for him to then finally say like, yeah, I'm here in control. This is me. Let's move on to the next thing. And the next thing is, I don't think we're going to top this. So let's just jump out. Which is funny because this same poem, we read it, or last year, we heard it in Dead Poet Society.
Oh, you're right.
What's his face? Robin Williams' character is reading this. I think it's a scene when he I think it might have been when he has them like kneel out.
And he's down and they're
looking at the yearbook.
Yeah.
I think it's in that scene. But listen to the different, like how it's used in that movie to spark the ambitions and desires of the character that has to fight with his dad, right? Who ends up committing suicide. Versus here it's to really feed the ego. Like, am I being loved? Have I received that here on earth? And versus the other one is, am I pursuing my pursuits, my goals? Favorite scene? Do you have a favorite scene?
Oh, yeah. I think my favorite scene. I think it has to be the Emma Stone and or Sam and Regan scene when he comes back, and he's trying to connect with her. I don't know. I think I really enjoyed Emma Stone and Michael Keane's performances back and forth together.
Yeah. So
I think I'm torn. I think I would probably put that one.
Yeah.
I will say though, the end scene with the critic is pretty top notch.
Yeah, that is a good one. I think I really like the introduction of Mike Shiner.
It's pretty great.
I think just because of how you set up this character, we've heard about him, right? And then you introduce him here facing like the stage, and then but what I really like is just the camera work. Oh yeah, the camera. That's probably some of the best. I mean, the nuance of how it shifts throughout the scene. To me, again, this is one of that's a scene specifically. Again, they're up there intimately, especially in like as Mike Shiner starts to like basically rewrite some things, like cut it out. We need to lose this, and like let's cut to the chase. Tell me what is inside of you, right?
I think is pretty phenomenal.
Yeah, I love it. I love the introduction of the character. I love that we're told so much about Mike Schreiner as well as Reagan in this environment, as well as their take on the production. But then it's just like the beautiful artwork or camera work, and like really getting very close to Edward Norton, and then not cutting, but then like shifting over to Michael Keaton's reactions. I just really love that scene.
It's pretty great.
Overall, I think I read they did 3
Cuts.
3 total rehearsals. Not rehearsals. 3 total, what's the word I'm looking for? Like
Takes.
Takes?
Yeah.
Is that it? Yeah. And
For Michael and for that scene?
no, for the whole movie. They did three runs total. Lots of rehearsals, but like 3 runs from start to finish with this movie.
They did it all in
not all in one, but like
they went through it the whole process. Yeah. I think I noticed. I think there might be 10 cuts.
10
stitches.
Yeah.
Anytime there was a moment where they're like on a black wall or like a
going into
or transitioning to like a whatever, those are all cuts.
Yeah.
Obviously the time lapses / like holding on one spot that ends up is a cut. So yeah, but overall, I mean, like really phenomenal work overall, and I think you know what I think it is. I'm gonna wrap. This is my last little thought.
Yeah,
I think is that like I don't know where I'm at in the story of Birdman.
Okay,
because I have a lot of venues that I'm still in the industry in the business side, but also there's us here, but also the fact that like I would love to have other not necessarily fame, but like being able to have a following, to be able to have a business in this realm, and like it's a weird battle because like at the end of the day, what makes views isn't always what is art and what is fun to make.
Right. And we talked about it, right?
Yeah.
Our trailer reactions.
Yeah. And so like but like, and even like outside of this, I have other projects and other things that I do, and I'm like, oh, I just want to do this, but like, that's not what will get me. Like, it's what's the playbook, you know? Anyways,
I think that, and this is my final thoughts. I think it's such a relevant movie, especially with the post Infinity War MCU environment we live in.
Yeah, we were in the middle of post all of these superheroes, large blockbuster, large contracts, long contract, sort of like the repercussion and like and what people do after the fact, and like all of that. To me, at the end of the day, I'm looking at it, I'm like, this is, if not, I'm kind of glad I'm watching it for the first time now.
Yeah,
because I have a whole different perspective. I'm like, whoa, like this is hyper real, like even more meta, than it was back then.
And you have all these I mean, obviously Robert Downey Jr. found success with Oppenheimer. Scarlett Johansson, has done so much. You talked about Marriage Story and Jojo Rabbit, like she did incredible, and other stuff post MCU. But I think we're gonna have like some actors, some cast members from the MCU that are just kind of stuck. I don't think Chris Hemsworth is that, but like he's talked about it, like he wants to take on different roles, like more
different styles, different
dramatic roles, right? And I don't see that happening for him.
I don't see that happening for him.
And is he going to go into the way of a Reagan, where he will always be remembered as Thor?
To me, he'll be always remembered as Reich.
Freaking Reich.
Freaking Reich. We need another
another extraction movie. We need to finish that.
All right. I don't, man. Good episode. I'm glad. This is a great one to rewatch. If you haven't watched it, go out there, rewatch the movie. Like, this is a D movie. This takes a lot. I think this is like, it gets you thinking for sure.
Yeah.
And I think part of that is the one take.
It is the one take. And again, it's in classic Alejandro Iñárritu style. He's attacking a lot of themes,
Yeah.
And it merits 2-3 viewings to kind of pick out what really stands out to you and your interpretations of it. So,
Facts.
yeah.
Well, we hope you enjoyed this episode, and we'd love it if you could subscribe on whatever platform you get your podcast or on YouTube, because we do a lot of stuff there, like we talked about today with movie reviews and trailer reactions and first impressions when we can get to them. On that, yeah, thanks for listening. Leave us a review if you like it.
But more importantly, we want to hear from you. What do you think of Birdman? Is this your first time watching it? How many times have you seen it? What did we miss? You can always connect with us on all the socials at Real Chums, or you can email us at your@realchums.com. You can find me individually, Marcel, on Twitter at Marstrosity, MarcTrosity,
And me, at Rubio_TV or .tv on other platforms. Join us next week as we take our first look, or as we take a look at Twister, and as we review some of these upcoming kind of reboots / sequels.
Yeah, we have a summer and late summer full of sequels, remakes, etc. So we're going to start off with Twister, the 1997 Twister with Bill Paxton and a surprisingly stacked cast.
It's a really stacked cast for the time period. So
Yeah.
I'm excited. It's been freaking years.
I have so many stories about this movie. I can't wait to share them.
I'm
next week.
so excited. I'm pumped.
Go watch it and come back. We'll catch you next time.
Later.